In 1989, Margaret Thatcher privatised our water. 10 previously public regional authorities in England and Wales were sold off to private investors. Nearly 30 years later, it's clear that water privatisation has failed. Our water bills have gone up by 40% in real terms. Our rivers and natural environments have been polluted by raw sewage again and again. The CEOs of water companies have been paid millions, while many of these companies are also dodging tax. And above all, it's clear that water is a natural monopoly. You don't get a choice about the water coming out of your tap. There is no consumer market. And we really need to bring water into public ownership so that it works for all of us. We could do that by buying back the water companies and turning them into democratically accountable organisations that work for everyone. But what about the shareholders? Well, Parliament gets to decide what would be an appropriate level of compensation for shareholders. And when it makes that decision, it should bear in mind the fact that these water companies had zero debt back in 1989. They've built up a debt mountain of around £42 billion and used that money to finance investment. In the meantime, they've taken out £1.8 billion in profits year after year. So we could compensate shareholders for the money they've actually put in, which is around £18 billion. And we could make sure to protect pensions fully in that process. And that would mean that within around 10 years, the public purse would be better off from having brought water into public ownership. Water is already publicly owned in many places across the world. In Scotland, Scottish Water does a great job. In Paris, water is publicly owned. Bills have been reduced and people have their say in monthly meetings. In fact, Paris is just one of nearly 100 French cities and towns which have taken control of their water in the last 15 years. And in the US, it's a similar story of communities taking control of water and bringing it into public ownership. In the Netherlands and Uruguay, water privatisation is actually illegal. And that's because water is the stuff of life. We use it and we rely on it every day. So why shouldn't we own it? If you believe that we should own our water, join us on the path to public ownership.